Hey guys, welcome back to Range of Survival in Fieldcraft. I'm Andrew. What I have for you today are 10 Fieldcraft hacks, tips, and tricks to improve your survival and bushcraft game out in the field. Stand by. Alright, so here's a good Fieldcraft hack. This is called the tent caterpillar. You can see there's dozens and dozens on here as they weave this web-like material, establish their house, and then this gives them a chance to grow. And in a couple of weeks, these things are going to be huge, they're going to be larger, and they make excellent fish bait. So we find something like this with large worms, harvest it, and combined with a very small fishing kit inside this film canister, we have a perfect survival kit to go after fish, get fish out of the water, and feed ourselves. So free bait, small fishing kit, too easy. All right, so here's a little trick. A burn bowl here that we can use to collect water or keep water in, as well as to place food in and eat. But we need something to eat with because we don't want to eat with our hands that we've been scratching our junk or wiping our fourth point of contact with. A great technique is to find tree bark. This is tulip poplar bark. And we can make just a quick food shovel very quickly out of this. So having something that's a little bit wet is good, has some moisture to it, meaning it's flexible. And so we're just going to cut off portions that we don't need. And we don't need a lot. And we're just going to carve a basic spoon. All right, so we got a basic spoon. It doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to work. Now what we're going to do is leave the bark on the handle to give us a little bit of rigidity, but we can take the bark off the back of the spoon. And if we thin it down enough, we can actually form the bowl of the spoon and actually mash this out a little bit to give us just a nice, flat, semi-rounded spoon that we can use to actually scoop up our food. And that was just a simple bushcraft spoon in about 2 or 3 minutes. Something simple. We can keep this outside our pack, put it in the pack straps or on the 550 cord behind our ladder pack frame. Let this dry out in the sun. It'll become stiff, and we can use it for a survival situation or even for bushcraft as a temporary spoon that'll last us a couple of days or so, or maybe even longer than that. A basic bark spoon goes a long way. All right, so here's another great Fieldcraft trick. I'm going to turn it around so you guys can see the knot we're about to do from my perspective so we get it right. We have about a 5-foot section of paracord right here, and we want to shorten this section without cutting the cord. We don't want to cut paracord or our survival cordage anytime we don't have to. And so if we want to suspend a bush pot over a fire with this cordage, we can shorten it up without cutting it, as well as without wrapping it around the top of our tripod. We want to do something that's going to impress everybody in our survival situation and make us look like we know what we're doing. So we're going to create something called the man-o-war sheep shank. Very easy knot to learn. What we're going to do is going to take our right hand, our running end, and we're going to make an underhanded loop. And so we have our standing end over the top of our running end. We're going to make 4 of those. We're going to stack them on top of each other. There's 3. And then there's 4. And so each of our hands, we should have 4 separate strands of rope. And what we're going to do with our right hand is grab that 3rd section, pinch it, thumb and forefinger, while holding everything. And then with our left hand, we're going to grab the same 3rd strand, but we're going to pull it down. And this one in our right hand, we're going to pull up. And then all we're going to do from here is simply pull. And that creates the man-o-war sheep shank. And now we've shortened this cordage from 5 feet or so to about 2.5. And so this simple trick will take out about half the length of rope. We can dress this up, make it look pretty. And then now what we can do is attach this end to our tripod. And then we can use this other end to attach to our bush pot and safely suspend our bush pot over the fire without cutting our cordage. All right, so here's a quick tip on how to take this notebook and make it a little bit more field expedient, because oftentimes we're going to have small writing sticks to accompany a notebook like this, and we can actually turn this into not only a notebook but a good survival and land navigation tool. So what we're going to do first is make a place to hold our pencil. We're going to come in with our knife and just make 4 cuts here, or here, all the way down. And then now what we're going to do is take our knife, we're just going to cut a slit, maybe 1/2 inch. All we have to do is take the cover and fit our pencil through these cuts. And then now we have just a simple pencil keeper as part of the cover. Very efficient. To make this into a survival tool, we're going to add our sail needle. We can use the sail needle for a lot of things: clothing, gear repair, hygiene, as well as navigation. And all we're going to do is create a spot with a piece of tape to tape it to our notebook. And notice how I folded down one edge of that tape to give us a tab so we can actually pull up this tape and get our sail needle. So now all we're going to do is put this sail needle on like that. And we're just going to tape it to the front of our book. And then now we have our notebook complete, and we can use this as a navigation tool. And our survival notebook navigation kit is complete. All right, so speaking of sail needle, another good Fieldcraft trick is understanding the sun and the time to give us cardinal directions. Now you can see my button compass right here, north. It's almost directly behind us, or behind me, in front of you guys, right over my left shoulder. We can take out sail needle, open up our notebook to our clock face. We're going to shove that sail needle through. It's going to act as our gnomon, and then we know it's about 10:15. All we're going to do is hold it by the base underneath, and then simply rotate our paper, or our notebook, to about 10:15, so a little past our 10, right there on the compass face, or the clock face. And then it's daylight savings time, so we're about to fall back. We've already sprung forward, so it's really 9:15. So we'll put it right here on the 9, and then looking at our button compass beside it, you can see we're relatively close. So north, still over my left shoulder, but this leading edge of the paper right here is going to be facing generally north, fairly close, or generally fairly close. We can even take our notebook, because we have just a little bit of the nail sticking out, or the needle. You can simply press it into the ground until it sticks, and then now we can actually rotate our paper fairly easily. Remember, 9:15, and we can use our button compass to help us check. Leading edge is going to be facing north, button compass facing north, just a slight difference. As you can see, with a method like this, using just a clock face on our notebook, the top portion is going to be day, bottom portion is going to be night. Finding the time, accounting for daylight savings time, and then double checking with our button compass, we can see that we get an accurate north reading. So now we know north is in front of us, east, south, and then west, and we get general cardinal directions. with this method. Very simple, easy technique to use. All right, so here's a good Fieldcraft hack. Create improvised signaling, just a simple bamboo whistle. We keep a piece of bamboo just like this. It doesn't really matter what size. The smaller the diameter, the louder the pitch. We're going to keep the node on one end. This acts as a plug, so we only have to make one plug for this whistle. We get a stick, we carve it down, and we're going to leave top of that stick flat to act as the whistle end. We can push it in here. You see I've already married that up, and I have my score marks. We can take out our Swiss Army Ranger with a saw, and we're just going to cut in. Going to cut in until we can actually see inside the bamboo. Close the saw, bring out the knife, and we're going to cut toward the mouth of the flute. I'm just creating a short bevel. Nothing more than that. And then now we can take our plug stick with the flat top, put it in with the flat top facing our cut, or facing up. Push it in until it's flush. Then we can close our knife, take out the saw. We saw that stick off. And now we should have a whistle. And if we need to, we can clean up the top just a little bit, create that much more of an opening. Create just a very simple whistle right here. We can also do this shorter sections of bamboo, so we can have a long section and then a shorter section like this. So that's how you create the simple improvisational Fieldcraft flute for signaling. Another good Fieldcraft hack is if we have just a simple folding saw. We're taking down material, we're processing material, but we find, at least in this area with tulip poplar, dead dry branches really high up off the ground that we want to cut down to use for friction fire or for fire sets, or we simply want to harvest something that's above the ground that we can't reach with our tiny little saw, is to create just an extension handle. We have our saw, we have a good piece of cordage, and then we have a stick that's long enough with our saw attached. We can actually reach what we're trying to cut. And so all we're going to do is create a very simple technique to lash this in place, one that's going to give us the opportunity to cut down material, but then something easy enough to actually take this apart so we can ditch this stick, collect our cordage and our saw, our material, and move out fairly quickly. And all we're going to use is just a simple knot clove hitch, a round lash, and then another clove hitch to lock this all in place. To create a clove hitch, we're just going to create 2 loops, same way. We're going to cross them so that we have an X with our cordage. Place this over our stick. We're going to slide our handle in without cutting ourselves. And simply grab the running and standing end. Lock it in place. We've got that X right there. And now with our standing end, we're simply just going to wrap around the handle and the stick. And then we're just going to finish off with another clove hitch, same as the other side. Make that X over our finger, take the running end, put it underneath the X. And we've got our X, we've got our X. We just pull this tight. Try to slide it down past the lock so we don't accidentally activate the lock right there and release the blade like that. Now this is fairly firm and we can saw material. All right, so here's another good hack or Fieldcraft tip. If we have bamboo in our area or other natural materials that we can hollow out fairly easily, we can turn materials into containers by driving our awl through the top, grabbing our knife, Hollowing this material out. Grab another smaller piece of material and then using it as a cap to close off the container. And then close it something like this. So if we have small fishing tackle, hooks on a safety pin, sinkers, swivels, we can just place them inside here and cap it off. Just something small like that. We could even take this piece of material or something larger like this, whip the outside with cordage, in this case bank line, so we have that waterproof line that we could use as a trout line or as a night line or ways to catch fish, or use this cordage as attachment points for cane poles, things like that. We could even put in smaller sections. We have our float or our bobber, and create simple ready-made reels, different size hooks, different size line, and even sinkers on this ready to go. You can see here's the little toggle or line keeper we made. This is ready-made line. Just needs to be attached to a cane pole. Let's pull off the hook. We can unwrap that line. We got a sinker on there already. Hook. Just need to add the bait and the bobber for a very simple rig to go fishing that we can take off and put on a cane pole fairly easily. All we have to do is then add our float or our bobber, cast out once we put bait on the hook, and catch some fish. And this all goes back inside fairly easily, like that. Tap it down, put the bobber in, and then cap it off. We have a fish kit right there ready to go. All we need now is just bait and a cane pole and an attachment point with the cordage. We've got our fishing kit. All right, so if you're anything like me, when you use folding saws, you either break off the tip or maybe somehow damage the handle because you're just a wild man. But if we have a folding saw, a good trick is when we're sawing down material, if we take anything that's about 1.5 inches, 2 inches in diameter, and maybe 6 or 7 inches, cut off a hunk of this and put it off to the side. On the off chance that we either break our handle or we snap the blade off close to the actual bolt right here, we can replace our handle, reattach our saw blade very easily and quickly, and still go back to work using our saw blade. A very quick technique. So we're going to say the saw is broken, and we're going to remove the saw blade itself. Make sure you don't lose those. Take out the saw, put the handle to the side. Now that piece of material we saved earlier is going to replace our handle. I'm going to take it out, grab our Bushcraft knife, so we'll baton just straight down the middle. Flatten it out. Now we're just going to put our saw blade in. We want to go maybe 1 inch or 2. It's going to shorten up the saw, obviously, but we want to have a good purchase and handhold. So when we lash this, the saw doesn't go back and forth and it just works just as normal. We're going to take our cordage. We're going to do a clove hitch. One loop over, cross them underneath so they form that X. We're just going to slide it up the handle. Maybe 1 finger width from the end or so. Pull it tight. And now from here we have 1 clove hitch, and we're just going to do a round lash. All that means is we're going to use a lot of cordage, so we don't have to cut it as many times. And we're just going to go all the way down around the handle. Now once we get close to the end, it's a good round lash. Not the prettiest thing in the world, but it doesn't have to look good, it just has to work. So now we're just going to create another clove hitch to finish off. I like to put an X over the thumb. Good technique is leave the X a little bit loose, like that. Take this cordage, create a bite, shove the bite through. If you're doing this one-handed while holding everything together. Now where you created that bite, take the knife, cut, pull your spool away, and all that's left is your knot. And then now you can tighten it down. And then now we have a good strong saw we can go back to work with. All right, so another Fieldcraft hack for primitive fire, especially a bow drill set. One tip I've picked up over the years has to do with the spindle, and this is where a lot of people fail. One technique that I picked up is shortening the spindle at the top where that bearing block is going to sit, making it thin, kind of like a bullet, and that reduces the contact time up at the top of the spindle. Reducing that contact time as well as surface area means less friction here, as opposed to having a rounded end right here with increased surface area, meaning more surface contact time with our fireboard. The faster we go, the more speed and pressure we apply, the greater the friction. And so we can use this technique to actually produce an ember, save our pieces, and then use less energy while still getting the same output. Putting that ember in that tinder bundle, getting a fire. Another use for that Right in the Rain notebook, besides as a survival tool, holding our pencil, our sail needle, a little bit of tape, as well as a navigational aid. It makes a great bow drill catch. You can see we have our bow drill set. The apparatus is in place. There's a lot of good stability. We're not going to move it, and we're still going to have this spindle. And this thing will eat down slowly, but decrease and still minimize the contact at the top, maximizing the contact at the bottom so we can produce that ember without burning out or shouldering out right here. And you can see how short that got, but it's still relatively thin. Here's the shoulder, and we still got that ember. That's what the bearing block looks like. It dug in, but didn't shoulder out, giving us plenty of time to get that. Now what we do, put it into our tinder bundle. That's a good Fieldcraft hack. All right, guys, another Down and Dirty video today out here at the Pathfinder School. 10 easy, simple Fieldcraft hacks, tips, and tricks. I really hope you liked this video. If you did like this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave me a comment in the comment section. I always appreciate your feedback. I want to thank you guys for what you can do for me, for this channel, for your likes, your views, your subscriptions, your comments, your feedback, and your shares. And I'll be back with another video as soon as I can, guys. Thanks.